back to the Talent Whisperer podcast. It's your host, Chipochedo, and it's season 2. Can you guys believe we've done one season and we're starting the next one now? Well done to us. Yeah, so welcome back, and I'm really excited. I say that all the time, but I mean it because today's guest, I feel, is a movement. I'm so excited to have Mainza Kawanu, aka the Urban Evangelist, as our guest on this week's episode. So Mainza leads a successful ministry and a platform that empowers people, especially women, by being, and it empowers people, especially women, I think by being just like an honest platform that's steeped in truth. She has highly successful events like the Truth High Tea, which is coming up soon. She's got a podcast and very useful weekly nuggets. I think those are weekly. I watch them weekly. Yeah, those are weekly, like Truth Tea, that have had an impact over 100,000 people globally, which is like a really huge platform. So well done, Mainza. Mainza is also a communications specialist. She's worked with renowned organizations like the World Bank and the UN. If you're communicating with these, if you're working in communications with these organizations, I think you have to be really good at your job. And she's also just recently bagged an MSc in communications.
For development.
Yes. In communications for development.
Right.
Amazing. So I think you're a real trailblazer. Really excited to have you on the show, and I've been looking forward to having this conversation.
Oh, bless.
Yeah. So welcome to the Talent Whisperer podcast, Mainza.
Thank you so much, Chipo. It's great to be here. It's a long time coming.
Yeah, it's a long time
We've
coming.
been chatting in the background, but today is the day.
Yeah, today is the day.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and it's a nice day.
Lovely.
It's
I'm loving
nice
the
day.
weather.
Yes.
Yeah. And as you were introducing me, one thing about me is I'm very awkward with compliments. So,
Really?
Yeah, I was trying to wear my poker face.
Yeah.
It embarrasses me.
It embarrasses you?
It does.
It's hard to take a compliment.
You find it hard too?
Yeah.
Okay, so at least I'm not alone.
I don't know if it was my mom who told me, someone told me, like, when someone compliments you, like, just take a beat, like, breathe a bit, and then sometimes just say thank you.
Okay.
Because, yes.
Thank you.
Because, as I've gone through, like, doing this podcast, it's funny when you're reading these bios, it's like facts. And it feels, and people get awkward, but it's facts, like we're not lying or making up stuff. And I think that this is stuff you've actually done, but it's not easy, I think, taking a compliment.
It shouldn't be, I think.
It shouldn't
I
be.
think when you get comfortable receiving compliments,
Yeah.
then you're probably not still stretching yourself to capacity.
That's true.
And you're still not setting goals ahead for you to, attain.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time, I'll just quickly throw in a disclaimer that I think it's also good, though, as much as we're chasing dreams, to just still pause and celebrate where we're at and live in the moment, because you might find yourself literally hopping from goal to goal and never being content with the present.
Yeah. That's true. And I think that's part of, like, they say, like, the duality of life, where you're not 100, like, even in a day, your day won't go 100% well. You have really high moments, and then you might have a moment that's not so great. Similarly to this, like, you have to be able to balance the fact that you look back and feel really proud of yourself with the fact that you're still achieving, and be okay with those two emotions existing in one person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Look at us already starting some deep conversations. I love
I hope
it.
we're not going off tangent.
We go with the flow. I think we go where spirit leads.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think to understand a person, it's always good to go back. I found that everything is always connected.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if we go back to young Mainza, or I don't know if that's what they called you when you were young.
I don't think I want to pull out my pet names.
Your pet name, okay. Not yet.
We'll find a lot of things growing up. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you go back, what were you like as a kid? What did you get praised for? And have you found that the signs of who you are today were always there? Yeah.
How far back are we going?
Let's go back, as far back as you can remember.
Okay. So I pretty much was that kid that was praised for being a brilliant pupil at school. Yeah. So I was known for being very brainy, being quiet and shy. I definitely was that child that, you wouldn't even know had snuck up into the room and, is quietly listening into your conversations, because you saw me first before you heard me. I was very athletic. I was sporty. I made a lot of teams at school. I used to play football. I used to play basketball. I was great at racing and running. So I was always like taking on 100-meter sprints, 200 meters, 400 meters. I did 5Ks at some point.
Wow.
Yeah. But mostly what I was praised for was just being, very respectful, being very intelligent, and very responsible. But I'll say that the responsibility component, I think, I don't want to call it a curse, but it's something that is synonymous with being the firstborn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Firstborn
Exactly.
girl.
Right.
Yeah, there's firstborn and then there's the added
Firstborn
like,
girl. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
So you're kind of like a little co-parent, and also being raised, in a single parent home.
Yeah.
So I did learn how to be responsible at a very, very tender age. When it comes to the aspect of what I'm doing now, and if it's littered in my childhood, the ministry aspect of it, no, no. Even though I was raised in a, Christian home, my mom was like very strong in the things of God. She laid a very solid biblical foundation. But I can't say that that's something that came to the fore much. I'm not surprised that I'm a communication specialist. I'm not surprised that I speak to different audiences.
Yeah.
Because again, I love to read. And
Okay.
my mom really nurtured that about me.
Yeah.
And when I say I love to read, people like, those detergent paste back in the days.
Yes.
They'd have like a little story in the
Yeah,
bag.
yeah,
like,
I remember those.
Take this much, scoop this much,
Yeah.
put it in a bucket.
The
I would
instructions
read
and
anything. I would read instructions on
Yeah.
detergent boxes.
Yeah.
I would read newspapers. Like literally from as far back as I can remember.
Wow.
You leave a newspaper lying around, I will
You'd
pick
read,
it up and
yeah.
I'll read. And I was known for being that child that also really loved to read.
Yeah.
Strong reading culture.
Yeah.
But amongst my peers, that probably was a point of irritation.
Yes.
Because parents would be like,
Yeah.
why can't you be like your friend?
Yeah.
Why can't you read like her?
Read like her.
And for me, it was a passion.
Yeah.
I didn't read because I had to read. I read because I loved to do it. Yeah. So in a nutshell, that's a snapshot of my childhood.
Wow. And so it's so funny that like I think everything was showing up. I think even, ministry was showing up because I've also just like become very I'm curious about a lot of things and a lot of careers, and I've seen now how even with ministry requires deep study, right? There's every time I watch maybe just a sermon or something, I'm like, I know that verse.
Right.
Oh, is that what you? Is that how you broke it down?
Yeah.
Is that what you saw? And I
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
that comes with I think it's helpful when you have a deep love of words, of research, of knowing where that comes from, what
Exactly.
they meant, and that I think like reading that kind of like curious nature, that kind of love for reading probably has shown up in that, because
Yeah,
I
for
do think it's a
when
special
when you
skill.
put it like that, absolutely.
Yeah.
Although it started to show up a little later, probably in my teens upwards. Yeah, but childhood not so much. But I mean, you've tied it back to the reading aspect, and how really when I am breaking down, God's word. On my podcast or my devotion, I mean, it goes back again to how you contextualize it, how you understand it, and how you make it relatable for
Especially
someone to
that.
just be able to understand that, okay, so this aspect of scripture relates to my life in this way and that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to talk more about that. But then you say something started showing up when you were a teenager.
Yeah.
I'm constantly like, I ask this question a lot because I feel like even for me and a lot of people, that grade 10 to grade 12, which is essentially high school, was a time where you either just had no idea what you were doing, or you were certain but things went a different route, or you had dreams. Like it's such a diverse experience for everyone. So I love to ask about it. So if we go to your high school, what were you what were you hopeful for? What were you thinking you'd be, nearing exams and thinking, okay, well, this is what is next. What were you thinking you'd study? And did things pan out how you envisioned at that time?
So high school, like probably leading up to exams, I was very strategic, but I would not recommend the strategy or approach that I used because I literally decided which 6 subjects I was going to focus on. I knew what were my strengths. I loved mathematics, I loved my English, my literature, but I hated chemistry and physics. And I was in a science class.
Yeah.
So again, I will not recommend this, but I pretty much told myself I'm going to excel in these subjects.
Yeah.
I'll focus on them.
Yeah.
And I'll ensure I get either a 1 or a 2.
Yeah.
So it didn't go too badly because I got 5 distinctions.
Nice.
But in my 11th grade, there's something that, was quite fundamental that happened. So because of my reading, automatically I love to write as well. It's one of the ways in which I continue to date to express myself and my thoughts. So I decided to take part in this countrywide essay writing competition, which was sponsored by the World Bank Group. And it was to do with a developmental topic, really. Can't really remember. I can't remember it now, but for the longest time, that topic stayed with me. And so I came second countrywide in that competition.
Wow.
And part of the prize, was, a full page spread in the Post newspaper at the time. And then we're also treated to like lunch with our parents. So my mother came along,
Yeah.
very proud, of that
Yeah.
accomplishment. And we got to meet, I believe it was the country director for the World Bank. And they took us on a tour of the offices. And I remember, being so taken by what I saw and just seeing these workspaces and these desks and the boardroom. And I told myself, one day I'm going to work for this place, this organization.
You just like in that you made up your mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I said I'm going to work for the World Bank and I'm going to work towards that goal of,
Yeah.
making it come to pass.
Yeah.
So I pretty much ran into my 12th grade because that was in grade 11 with that at the back of my mind. Then, like I said,
The goal is the World Bank.
Exactly, the goal is the World Bank. So yeah, you kind of keep running with that vision that you've cast and set, in front of yourself.
Yeah.
On the aspect of ministry, I mean, I was very involved at that time now in church activities.
Yeah.
I can't sing to save my life. So I honestly, I don't know how I made it into the teens choir. Yeah. Today
They're normally very kind. There are churches where they're very kind.
I think they're very kind and they probably overlooked a lot. But I mean, I was in the choir. I would be part of dramas. I was very active in youth ministry. So that was alongside me as a high school pupil at the time at St. Mary's Secondary School. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. And let's talk about that. How many times has that shown up in your life? And I'm going to go there because I think it's an important thing. Where you went to the World Bank, you were in grade 11, so I'm thinking around 16, 17, and you see something, and I guess in that moment you kind of have a knowing, like this is what I want, and then you manifest it because you worked for the World Bank. How many have you found that has shown up in your life a couple of times? That was the first time, and then. Is it something you do consciously or does it just happen? Like, have you come to practice seeing something and then, have manifesting it?
The beauty has been the element of surprise, really. So it's not something that was conscious, but it's something that would again speak to the faithfulness of God. Like you literally captured my desires, my heart's desires, some which I hadn't even, voiced out yet.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example of, there was this time, I was already on campus, I believe.
Okay.
And at the time, DSTV used to have those TV guides.
Yes. Oh, I loved TV guides.
Right, you remember
I loved
those?
them.
So they were announcing the next cycle of Big Brother Africa in that TV guide.
Yeah.
And so I had it and I was reading it. And that night, I went to bed thinking, I would love to be a part of the show, not as a housemaid.
Yeah.
But, like I would see the TV field presenters and I'd really be envious of that. Like, I'd love to do something that looks really cool. So I went to bed that night having read about the forthcoming season of Big Brother Africa Cycle 7. And the very next morning, I got a call asking me to go on audition as a field
What?
presenter. And I got the role. So it was really
Yeah.
shocking to me. Like, I'm like, okay, I know that was you, God. It was
Yeah.
one of those, I know that was
That
you,
was
God
you.
moments. Yeah, so it has happened. Another example practically would be where I'm working
Yes.
right now. It was always a dream to work for the United Nations
Uh-huh.
and to, be there in a role that I found fulfilling, that I loved and I was passionate about, so much so that it wouldn't really feel like work.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I am doing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I have examples too. I won't go into that, but I think there's something there, and I wanted us to talk about it because we sometimes underestimate what, like you said, the desire and just like either the belief or just letting it go, and it could happen from when you're, which is why it's nice to go back to childhood, because
Yeah.
it could be something that you really wanted as a child, and one day
It
it
happens.
shows up. And I also like the element of surprise, because I think sometimes when you obsess over it, it just doesn't. Yeah. So when you became a presenter, right? At this time, were you already DJing? Because I think the first time I knew of you, because I was on campus around the same time you were, that's University of Zambia, but we were not in the same um, class or intake. But I remember you were you already DJing
I
then?
was. I was.
Yes. Okay. So how did you get into that as someone who you described yourself as like introverted and shy, seen before you speak? Um, how did you become comfortable around a microphone and just like sharing with an introverted nature?
It's such an oxymoron, isn't it? For
It
someone
is.
who's shy and then you kind of find yourself like
Yeah.
in media.
Oxymorons
So,
are my favorite.
yeah.
They are my favorite type of morons.
So I think it's something that still is part of who I am right now. Because despite the many facets to me in that there's work that's in the public domain, at the heart of who I am is still that shy girl. Like, I'll still be very quiet in a room, I'll still be very reserved. But when it comes to now pulling out my talents and my abilities, I guess somewhere there is where some transformation begins to take place. So I began to work as an on air presenter pretty much immediately after high school. And I was still waiting for my grade 12 results.
Okay.
Yeah. So one night I'm watching Smooth Talk. I don't know if you used to watch Smooth Talk
Course,
back in
of
the
course.
days. And yeah, on came this lady. She used to work for Choice FM at the time.
Yeah.
Bubbly Trey.
Yeah.
And I just loved how she carried herself and how she spoke of radio with such passion. And it's something that I hadn't even stopped to think about. Like, I would want to be on radio
Yeah.
as an on air presenter. But because of her, something in me just, clicked, like a light bulb went on. And I told myself I'm going to go to that radio station
Yeah.
the next day and I'll just knock on the door and just see what happens. And so when I got there, it happened to be a time where they were also, working towards a shift in that they were trying to now harness youthful talent. So they were working on a youth wing for the radio station. So that's how, I stayed on. I
Yeah.
was mentored. And just when I was about to, begin to do one or two things, I was told that there was an opening at QFM. So I
Wow.
auditioned and I got the job instantaneously.
Yeah.
So that's how my radio career started, really. But again, I went on air because it's the creative side to me that was coming to the fore.
So at that
Back
time, you
to,
didn't know it was just a thing.
well, kind of back to what you said about how
Yeah.
everything connects.
Yeah.
At school, I would be in dramas, I would be in plays, I would recite poems. Again, all speaking to arts and, just creativity. So I guess that was another element, another aspect to it, another layer
Yeah.
of myself that I needed to peel off. And of course, I won't lie, Chipo. I wanted to be known for something. I wanted recognition.
Nice.
Hey, I wanted to
Yeah.
go on Smooth
So
Talk.
first of all, and I think that's something that for me I've been struggling with, and let's go. Kind of, I want to talk about it because it kind of ties into the compliments thing we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like being comfortable with wanting to be known for something.
Yeah.
You know, there's a way we shy away, and I don't know if it's humility or in our, you know, the way we are kind of brought up to do those things.
Yeah.
I find that it's hard to admit. It's been hard for me to admit, to say, you know what, I want to be known for this.
Yeah.
You know, like I want the recognition
Yeah.
that this is my area of expertise, or this is what I'm good at, or I also have the skill of presenting and putting my art out there.
Yeah.
But it feels arrogant sometimes. It feels like, do you want to be like, why do you want that? Why do you want the recognition? Shouldn't you just be happy that you know, you know?
Yeah.
So I love that you brought that up, because that's something I'm still struggling with.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was actually quite deliberate, my bringing that up.
Yeah.
Because it can be a blurred line, and blurred in the sense that the cons of it are what you've highlighted.
Yeah.
But I brought it up specifically because I wanted to show that I might not have had some of the purest intentions then of going on air. Like I said, you're young, you know what I mean? You're in your teens, you've just finished school, and if you're on radio, you're happening, or you get to
that's
be talked about.
The word is you're happening.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what drove me for
Yeah.
most part
Yeah.
then. But now it's very different. I mean, there's maturing that has taken place within me. There's character that has also developed. And I guess I wouldn't rewrite it, because, I mean, you grow through the things that you go through, you know. But if you're going to downplay what you're good at because you're trying to stay humble, we also need to be careful of false humility, because when you're good at something, you're good at it, and you know you are. You know what I mean? You won't rub it in everyone's face and say, hey, look at me, look at me.
Yeah.
But I mean, if internally those are some of the goals and targets you've set for yourself, I think it's just a matter of time before people will see it and they'll know you for that thing. It's just a matter of time before, you know, people say of you, oh, she's got a great podcast. You know, she's great at interviewing her guests.
Yeah.
So I think when you give it your best, eventually you'll be known for something.
Yeah.
It will show, and you probably won't even have to be the one doing all the talking. Your work will speak for itself.
Really
your legacy will speak for itself. Yeah.
Yeah. I love how you've definitely taught me something, because I was also struggling with that balance of like, when do I let my work speak for itself? Because I'm a believer in that as well. But also, when do I like promote it? You know, because now we live in a world that's now being powered by numbers and likes and follows and all these things. So it's still something I'm trying to get a handle on, of like, when is it, you know, when is it the right push versus me going to a weird place with it. And when you go to a weird place, you feel it. Yeah.
There's that unsettled within you.
Yeah.
And I think that is there really as some sort of, I think it's an early warning system, and just always listen to that as well.
Yeah. That's really good advice. You came on this podcast to help me reconcile all those things I'm working through as well, you know, as a human. So see, this is I guess this is what you do at the end of the day. So anyway, so truth shows up a lot. The one thing that has struck me about your platforms is you use the word truth a lot. And I'm curious, why is, like, I know why a show, like generically a show anchored in truth sounds great, but why for you does truth show up quite a lot? Why is your ministry anchored in that? And what is it about that concept that has really spoken to you?
Truth changed my life, Chipo. I think when you come to a place where you are honest about anything, then you've conquered and you've overcome in that area. And there's a woman who said something at some point just recently that actually made me, you know, where you've lived by, you know, a principle, without seeing another dimension to it. But when she opened me up to it and I began to read up a bit more and study, it all just came full circle. So she said, like, in the Garden of Eden, when Adam, failed to take ownership of the fact that they had eaten of the fruit that they were not supposed to, and he passed the blame on to Eve, he failed to get his authority back because he could not own up to the truth. So when you don't own up to the truth, you lose that authority over that lie in any area of your life. It's like in a relationship, Chipo.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you find out your spouse, for instance, or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, maybe they've done something and they're still trying to hide it and cover it up, right? All you want as the one that's been offended is truth. So much so that you say, if you just tell me the truth,
Yep.
we can get past this.
Yeah.
But for as long as you keep lying to me, we're not going to make any progress. So when we hold on to lies, we think that we are protecting ourselves and we're keeping our power. But once you own up to something, you're actually relinquishing it. You're getting it back, not relinquishing it, rather. So for me, the time I became honest about who I am, where I am, why am I the way I am, and I began to filter that through the truth of God's word, which is very important because God's truth is absolute. It doesn't change.
Truth, yeah.
That was what became the game changer. That's what birthed who I am leading up to the Urban Evangelist today.
Yeah.
So truth for me is basically a principle that I live by. It's not something that I just talk about because it sounds deep. It's something that resonates so well with me because it's my
value.
life.
Yeah.
It's how I live out my life. And the other thing about truth is it has to be truth that you know that will set you free. So my ministry work is anchored in, of course, the scripture, you shall know the truth and it shall set you free. But it has to be truth that you know, that you've become familiar with in order for it to be a guiding force in your life.
Yeah.
And in order for you to filter everything through it, you have to know it.
You have to know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't use a truth that you don't know.
Yeah.
To instill any values of
Yeah.
any sort within you.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's all kind of grown from there to truth tea. I mean, then when you talk about spill the tea, you talk about gossip, you know what I mean? Or, oh, I've got some hot news to share with you.
That's what it means
So
when we
I
talk
thought,
tea.
okay, I'm going to spill this good news.
Yeah.
Right. That will be my
Yeah.
truth tea. That's what
Yeah.
you're going to know me for.
Yeah.
Then there's Truth and Tea podcast.
Yeah.
Then there's a Truth High Tea.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's all kind of just, I mean, it's one product that has so much leg room to grow.
To grow.
And I don't even know, product sounds wrong. Truth is not product.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the essence of who I am. Yeah. In a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
Right.
I think what I definitely love, first of all, is the consistency. Like you said, the consistency across is very important. Like something anchored, because I can feel I could feel the anchorage of the, like, I guess we can even say product at the end of the day if you really think about it. But it's really key because it gives it an identity, an authenticity, I think, because it feels consistent. And especially if you, the person that birthed it, lives your life out of truth, I think it shows. And I think that's probably one of the reasons that I think you have a really, I think it's really successful ministry. And the reason I say that
See my face change right
yeah,
there?
I saw you like, wait, is it? I think it's successful, I'm telling you. And the reason I think it's successful is because you are right where, so you have your pioneers, or I won't call them pioneers per se, because people in ministry have been there for a long time. But you have an older generation.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've started, but there's still very few people in this like now generation that are coming up in a way that feels relatable. If that does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah,
It does.
because relatability is relatability for the times.
Yeah.
For the times, the culture times we're living in. even when you use terms like tea, because that's what we know tea as. Tea is like, oh, like you said, spill it. So I'll know what it is, and already that will make me feel like, oh, she's one of us. She knows what the tea is. So it's and this is why I think that's successful. The fact that it reached me without even the fact that it reached me and impacted me without it being about any personal connection that you and I might have had. Shows that I think makes it a successful ministry. So I'll give time for you to take that compliment.
It actually makes a lot of sense. Thank you. But I love the aspect that you've really highlighted of, relatability. And I think part of my work really, I would say I stand at the intersection of culture, because culture sometimes we misunderstand it to mean culture as in Zambian culture, but culture as in what's urban, what's happening, what's prevailing in the world now,
right now,
in that sense of culture and faith. So there's that intersection, and not that I don't know which way to go, but it's how do you stand at that intersection and take what's happening in culture and still be able to filter that through faith in a way that someone can understand it and it ministers to them. Jesus used parables, he used stories, and the Bible itself is God's revelation in time, in space, in culture, because sometimes you read things in the Bible that, will use what was happening in the environment at the time to deliver a message.
Yeah.
But unless you understand what was prevailing at the time, you might miss some of the messages that the biblical authors were trying to articulate, and pass on to us.
Yeah.
So, right, back to what you were saying.
Yeah, and isn't it amazing how everything is like connected, right? Because I think part of what has allowed you that relatability is your background DJing, your background being a VJing as well, because you had to know what was hip.
Yeah.
And you had to know how, like, the energy with which to deliver. And I think that's the energy with which you deliver now.
You think?
And yeah, because
when you think about it,
when you think, because it's the same like kind of like ability to communicate, right? And to communicate in a way that captures, So I think even it doesn't feel like. So you find that people that are watching you or that are listening to you, it's easy for them to be captivated because it looks, it looks happening. That's the word, it looks happening. It's happening. So it's like, oh, what's this? I like this, and this looks great. And I think your experience doing all that, even that Big Brother experience is all valuable because it taught you delivery.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
So part of that scarlet thread.
Scarlet thread. Yes. So when we sum you up, you sound like a reader, a scholar. If you're still studying today, I think people that always still, you've got a platform that's doing well. You've got a job that people, probably look up to, and just still studying. That always shows like a person is always just like growing, right? But when you sum yourself up, all the things that make up Mainza, what would you say are your gifts and talents?
Well, I would say, I think I'm very. So I don't want to say communication. I don't want to bring in communications. I think my gifts and talents are being able to capture the hearts of people, to be empathetic.
Oh, I love that.
To be honest, to be kind. I think to be human. I've never tried to dress myself up as this leader that's got it all figured out. You know what I mean? I think I've been very intentional about also showing my own inadequacies, my own failures, my flaws, my losses, and the way I package my work is not trying to put out a perfect product or a perfect being, but to show that, listen, I mean, I'm on a journey and you can come along with me and we can learn together and we're work in progress. And to sum me up would pretty much to just say I'm on a faith journey, which I share like every stage with anyone that, has the heart to listen and to learn something from it and to draw inspiration from it. But that journey for me is always just to me and then through me. It happens to me, and then through me, you can learn something. You can see Christ. You can see God at work. So my talent would really be, of course, through communication, through different audiences, capture the heart of people. The message of the Bible has never changed. The method, though, is what varies. And I guess in my unique offering as Mainza, there's something God packaged in there that I would use a particular method to convey his message in a different way.
Wow, that's a powerful gift.
So
Heart capturing is a powerful gift. Yeah, I think it's also it's
because
amazing.
there's the overt ones. Yes, you're a great speaker. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I've got a photographic memory. When I see something,
You do?
yes, I do.
Pretty
I
awesome.
literally capture it, and I can. Back then, I'd go back and read it word for word. Of course, with age, some things are not as sharp and refined anymore. So there's the overt ones that you can see, but beyond that, for me, it's I need to capture someone's heart, and by capturing someone's heart, it would take showing my own heart and wearing it on a sleeve.
That's pretty cool. And I think why that's pretty cool is that I mean it's a very it's how I'm trying to find the word for it. I would say big gift, but like it doesn't feel like that's the right word. And the reason I'm saying that is being able to know that being able to know, and I love that you also take the responsibility, right? Because you know that you have the ability, right? Through your communication, through all these, like you said, all these overt gifts that make up this one thing, that you have the ability to capture hearts. And for me, to do it responsibly. And when I say you're doing it responsibly, is that you're selling, not, I don't know if the word is selling, but I'll say selling.
I hear you.
You're selling authenticity. And I think that's really, really important, especially in ministry. Because, when that's where we look to. In those moments when we feel alone, in the moments especially when we are the most lost or the most alone, we look to God's word. And when it can be very harmful when the people giving it don't live out of a place of authenticity, because like you said, you share everything. You share the parts that are not so great, and you share the parts that are great, and that makes you like a whole human being. So when someone comes to seek answers, comfort, and they see that even you've had trials and tribulations, and you shared earlier about some of the imperfections of the intentions you're doing things. I think it's being responsible for your gift and your platform. So that is also something that I think is key. When
Absolutely.
they
Absolutely.
yeah. When they say with great
you
power,
have to be comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think being responsible for a great gifting is really key. So yeah, that was a good conversation. So what another thing I love about what you're doing is that and I think that was the whole point of this podcast. For me, I would love to expose people to the different types of being and of working. I was talking earlier about my background in HR.
Yeah.
And I think my gift overall is connecting people to opportunities. I think I do that in different ways, but that's the general gist of it when you just, and I think we seek the same opportunities, right? And through my career, seeing things, and also just this prompting. You talked about a prompting. I also believe one of my messages is to show people that there's all sorts of opportunities. It just can't be this thing, which is why I love guests such as yourself who are doing things, who are relatable, but are doing things that someone might have a burning desire for, but because they're also chasing the same opportunities everyone is chasing, they're not, they're afraid to go off on their own. So what advice would you give someone who's struggling with the decision? And I'm going to talk about ministry. And the reason I want to talk about ministry is I think some people struggle with that because of what they fear, they might be giving up, or fearing even just the platform or the ridicule that might come. Will I have to be a perfect person? And they shy away from starting a ministry. I have a friend who I think should have started ministry
Really,
a long time ago, and I'm going forward at this episode.
She's being a Jonah.
Yes, she's being a Jonah. Away. Exactly.
Don't
she's
be a
feared.
Jonah. We need you.
Yes, and I think she's gifted, but she's feared starting, and I think she'll end up being under someone, and then under. But I just need to kick her butt into getting it done. But what advice would you give someone who's still struggling to potentially go into this route, and even if they're not making it their full career now, because I think it's a career, it's a calling. What advice would you give someone who's kind of still struggling with that decision?
So I think it all begins with what you know for sure you've been called to do. Never be in doubt of that. The first thing that must be very clear is your why, because your why is what's going to keep you going, even when you're met with resistance, even when you're not being applauded. Not that you're going into it to be applauded, but sometimes, when you take a step, some applause kind of encourages you, and gives you a hint that you're going in the right direction. So when you know your why, it's what will keep you fixated on the reason you're doing what you do. If it's one thing that we've all got talents, we've all got gifts, we've all got abilities.
Everyone.
There's no single person on this earth, right, that was not created by God to do something. But in harnessing, those gifts and those talents, especially in ministry, because you did say you want to focus more on ministry, right? There's some aspects of ministry that we tend to neglect and overlook, such as character development, such as, some mentorship, having a leader, that you can run to and you can, pretty much follow after, So we tend to feel like because I am gifted in this area, or because God has anointed me to do this, then I can just launch out into the deep on my own, and I can do it all by myself. But the reason why I emphasize on character development is because gifts and talents alone, Chipo, are dangerous.
Very.
They can actually kill you. We've seen some incredibly talented people on this planet that have risen meteorically and then come crashing down because there was no character development. So character is what will protect your gifts. It will protect your talent. It will protect you. And character in ministry, you cannot find character outside of the Bible, because character is where you find aspects to do with your integrity. So for me, I don't preach perfectionism, because, sanctification is an ongoing process. And if we're perfect, Jesus would only have died for our past sins, knowing that, okay, from this point when you become a believer,
everybody's perfect.
Yeah, perfect, right. But he didn't just die for the past. He died for the present and the future sins as well. But what I do uphold are the values, the biblical principles. So if I'm going to step out, it means I'm stepping out knowing that I will have to lead with my life. I cannot do certain things. I cannot be in certain places because I'm being an ambassador. As an ambassador, if you're sent to America, you've got a code of conduct to live by. There are rules. It's the same thing with the Bible. If you're going to be an ambassador for it, you have to live by its principles. But then that's what's going to guide you, that character development, because in there are issues of integrity. Integrity is pretty much being one person. So it means who I am offline must be in tandem with who I am online. You know what I mean? I just can't be one way online and offline. I'm a totally different person. So you have to invest in that character. And by investing in character, you can't do it, without mentorship. You can't do it without a study for the word, being grounded in it. You can't do it in isolation of others as well, because when God gives you a vision, He never gives you a vision that's so small that you can do it all by yourself. You mentioned Truth Haiti. You know, you see one event that looks successful on the day it happens in the photos.
Yep.
But behind that big win, there's so many losses behind the scenes.
Yeah.
There's so many people that are also making sacrifices for you. I can't take the glory because behind the scenes, there's people that have caught the vision of what they believe this event can become.
Yeah.
They're sacrificing their time.
Yeah.
They're sacrificing their resources. If a corporate is going to jump onto that event, it's because they've seen something about the work that's being done. You get my point? So invest in people as well. Invest in yourself and step out once you've established your why. Your why shouldn't be because someone else is doing it and they're doing it a certain way. I had no idea that what I'm doing would grow into what it's grown into today. All I knew is I've got a message. I've just come out of Bible school. I've been working on myself, first of all, developing the person I know is within me.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time working on that foundation. So know your why, establish the foundation. It will keep you grounded.
Yeah.
If you don't invest in yourself, if you don't know your weaknesses, you know, your areas that need refining, don't go into ministry. Work on that first.
Yeah.
Then now begin to build on those foundations. Don't go into ministry to be seen. Don't go into ministry to make money. It's not, I know you did mention it's a career. Ministry is a calling. The two are very separate. Have a career as well. In addition to your calling, your career, you're paid to do that. Your calling, though, you can't run away from it.
Yeah.
You cannot run away from your calling. And consistency is key because if you're consistent in the small things, you'll be consistent in the big things
as well.
Yeah, and consistency is what upholds your character.
Yeah.
You know, Albert Einstein said people think that it's intellect that makes a scientist. It's not. It's character.
Yeah.
It's how you show up every day.
Yeah.
If you decided I'm studying to be a scientist, you've been to Onza Chipo.
Ooh.
What do we call the School of Medicine?
NS. We start in NS. That's
NS.
why I
So
went
if you
and
know
it
that
was
you're
wild.
going into NS, ministry is NS in life. NS, you give up that social life. There's things you need to give up. You make sacrifices. You pour into your work.
Yes.
In order for you to be governed by the principles of science, back to the Bible, NS, you're governed by science. The
Yeah.
ministry, you're guided and governed by the Bible. Yeah.
I love that analogy. That's
So-
very smart. And you know, and thanks for pointing out the difference between a calling and a career. I think it's yeah. Thanks for pointing out that because I think it's now that I think about it, especially with ministry in itself, you're right. It's a calling.
Yeah.
So that is what it is.
Yeah.
It's the call in your life, right? And yeah, the right reasons also really matter.
Yeah.
You know, and
Your
character.
why. Your why.
Character is something that continues to be underappreciated. I don't know. I feel especially in our Zambian culture, I think we don't place too much emphasis on character development, on integrity. You know, because those things are the backbone or cornerstone of any test. You know, any life test, any, and I'm also grateful that. You know, I think I'm still in character development, but I'm grateful that the journey started because it's the tests as you, and for me it's also on the career side. The tests as you rise up in your career and you get to heights that you didn't dream of, the tests become so much bigger.
Right.
And it's the integrity and the character that I've come to heavily rely on, that have come to help me with decision making when it can be very difficult, you know. So yeah, I think I love that. I love the character. I love the knowing your weaknesses.
Yeah. And just to add on that, like, I think part of how you also develop it is when you know your weaknesses, you know, confess them, speak about them to someone, you know. Sometimes that will save you a lot of trouble as well, or at least someone who's gone ahead of you will be able to share how they navigated through those murky waters. Yeah.
Sharing,
Because
confessing your
even like
weaknesses.
in ministry, like online ministry, especially Chipo, I mean, there have been times where you're looking at what trends online. It's shocking, eh? And you're kind of like, but I'm putting out God's word. And then all someone has to do is just like
Yeah.
laugh on their
Yeah,
live, and
yeah,
they've
yeah.
got 200,000
Yes,
views.
yes.
So you
That
do
can be
see
very
that.
it-
It can be discouraging, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
But again, when you go back to
To
your
your
why,
your
you're like,
why.
okay, it's two different things here.
Yeah.
And you speak to someone about it, like, okay, is this an insecurity? Am I, focused on the wrong thing? You confess that, like, okay, look, I'm struggling. I'm feeling like there's a numbers issue, happening within me. And it helps to speak. And that way you refine and, you strengthen those areas of weakness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think confessing is like I think sometimes when we think of confessing, we think of this very that like a structured way in which you're doing it.
In
But
a confessional,
in a
right?
confessional. But I love how you've said that just in those moments that you feel and some kind of way. I'll describe it as some kind of way
Some
because we
kind
all
of
know
way,
it.
yes.
You feel some kind of way.
Yes.
You have a trusted person that
Yeah.
you go and talk to, and you hear it back. Because sometimes just hearing it back is like important. And when you hear it back, you self correct.
Exactly.
So that's the confessing, is the letting it.
Yes.
The letting it
Yes.
out.
Yes.
So I love that.
And accountability as well.
Accountability.
I mean, when you say it out to someone, that way you nurture accountability. Someone
Yeah.
can help you, keep track
Yeah.
of the progress you've made. Oh,
Yeah.
Chipo, how are you doing in this area
Yes.
now?
Yes.
What's
Yes.
the progress we've made?
Yeah. I have a coach for that, and he helps me so much, and every time
Yeah.
it's near our session, I'm like,
Yes, it's important.
where am I with this? I start
Yeah,
asking myself,
yeah.
where am I with this? No excuses,
Yeah.
But also the kindness. Even when I haven't done something, it's still like, oh, they still, you need, the person on the other side also needs like a compassion and a kindness for you to help you
Yes.
through some of the things that you're still working on as a human.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so for someone who in the business of people, I know when you deal with people, you constantly are pouring out of yourself. Uh, how have you come to learn how to replenish? Because I know when you pour out essence, when you pour out energy, the depletion that comes with that is an exhaustion like I've never felt before. It's something else entirely. So how have you come to take care of yourself as someone who's constantly giving as a calling?
That one's very simple. I retreat. I withdraw. So online, I will do a digital detox, just take some time off. If it's after, a period that's been very busy, again, I'll just take time off just to go back and recharge myself. I'd like to say I'm an introvert. I believe I am. So for me, I replenish in isolation of others. Yeah. So I pretty much cut off anything, no activities. So if you invite me to your podcast during that period, I will politely decline because I've specifically set that time just to replenish, but not on my own, of course. I mean, like I said, in response to your previous question, I've got people that I also sit under, I draw from, I drink from their wells, and at the same time also, I take the time to rest, do some of the things that I love, whether it's spa dates, whether it's just sleep, like especially now as a new mom.
Yeah.
Sleep is gold for me, so just switch off. I'm not in heaven yet, so my life is not super spiritual where I don't even watch TV. I binge. I'll find a series and I will binge.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All those are ways that I recharge. But also I'm careful to be mindful of places that inspire me. So if it's a holiday, I find inspiration in new places, or you read a book, or you take a walk, but the answer pretty much is just I retreat, I withdraw, spend quiet time with myself, with my family, with people that pour into me, and just quiet time with God as well, and just to take the time to ask, okay, we've done this up until this point, what next?
I love that. And I think it sounds like it's a part of your life. Like you've prioritized it, like even the digital detox.
Yes.
And for someone with an online platform as well, that must be discipline to say, I know this thing but it will still be here when I come back from my digital detox.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now in recent times, I mean, I've got a team that I work with. So just to try and avoid also, like breaks on the actual page,
Yeah.
you prepare your content, and you tell yourself, okay, this will last for a month.
Yes.
And just get someone to log in and manage it.
Yeah. And at least you can stay replenished.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's really important.
Yeah.
And thanks for sharing. And so what are you, when you look, in a 5-10 year horizon, or even further, what are you excited about? What are you still yet to achieve? If you can share, what does the future look like for the Urban Evangelist
in 5 years' time?
Let's whatever time horizon.
Probably there's different facets to it. Ministry wise, I would love to have created, regional links, especially between women.
Yeah.
Just kind of eliminate borders and have the Truth High Tea be an event where we come together, to just break out of our silos as women and just, inspire one another, learn from each other, grow together, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, financially, just all-rounded well-being, really, but not just regional. If I'm to share my wildest dream right now with you, where the event is concerned, I would love to bring Sarah Jakes Roberts to Zambia.
Listen,
no lie,
I'll work for free. Just have me there. If it's just to I don't know, the towel. What does she call that? The pulpit water.
Exactly.
I will just deliver it.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be amazing. But I see it.
That's a big dream.
Yeah,
for
I
me,
see it.
okay, that's huge. And not that I want to share a stage, but just again, we would love to have her here. You get my point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see you easily doing that because I don't know, you remind me of each other.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone has ever told you that. You're very different, but you have your I don't know, there's something that is also similar. Maybe it's the timing and the message and the relatability and so
I hope one day we can look back to this and say, we talked about it.
You know what? We're going to
it's happening.
Remove it. I think it's going to happen. I think if anyone can do it right now, also just in our current climate and what you're currently doing, I think if there's anyone who can do that, it's you.
But more than anything, Chipo, sometimes and this just literally crossed my mind now.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we think of the future, right, we see perhaps another version of ourselves that is a bit more far gone than where we are now.
Yeah.
But just now as we're talking, I actually thought that I would still love to be in 5 years' time still as passionate and as on fire for the things of God as I am now.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you find that maybe as you begin to check more boxes, maybe it begins to fizzle and you begin to feel like you've arrived.
Yeah.
And that's always behind the scenes, that's always been my most intimate and deepest prayer. Lord, let me, never outgrow my love for you and go ahead of you. For me, let me stay grounded. Let me stay humble. In part of my reading, I read a book titled God's Generals, Why They Succeeded. But the edition I read is the one that also added Why Others Failed. And when you see how some ministries fail, it's really sad. But for me, it really sparked something within me that we're not... It can happen to me. What happened to that great man of God?
Yeah.
It can happen to me. And greatness is not in what you've accomplished. Greatness is in knowing that I'm a regular being with a great God. So I think the greatest men of God have really been those that have been used by God the most and have stayed by his feet. So for me, that's where I'd love to be in 5 years' time. Of course, having accomplished so much, but still at his feet.
I love that. Still on fire.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because on fire is good. On fire is good in with anything.
Yeah.
So I love that. That's a good prayer.
Yeah.
That's a good prayer.
Yeah.
I'm always I'm always stealing prayers, by the way. When I
Okay.
hear someone's prayer like,
Yeah.
oh, I've never prayed like that, then I note it, and then it also becomes
Yeah.
like, I hope in 5 years I'm also still on fire
Yeah.
for things
Yeah.
I'm passionate about.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's really good.
Yeah.
And that event will happen.
Amen to that.
We just put it out there.
Amen to that.
So now you have your own big event coming up, the Truth High Tea. I have my tickets. I'm really excited.
Oh, yay.
This morning I was like, I don't have an outfit, so I need to figure that out.
Nah, I'm not worried about you.
Yeah. But like, what's your hope? And I know that we've talked about the ministry in general, but what's your hope for this event? Because you have some guest speakers that I'm also really excited about. So, and this it's so weird that I had made up my mind I was coming already, and then
Yeah.
when I saw your guest speakers, yay, you know. So what's your, first of all, what's your intention for the event? What do you want? What do you want to put out there with the event? And why would you encourage someone to come? Yeah.
So this year there's been a lot of intentionality, obviously with lessons learned from the maiden one which took place last year. I mean, one of the guests coming is Mpumi Ledwaba. I mean, she's a renowned podcaster, amongst other things. She's a digital entrepreneur. So it's also about, look, how can we connect women that are aspiring to be in the space she's at now? How can we bring them to be in the same space, you know? And
Women like me.
right, exactly. And so I can't preempt everything that I'm trying to work on, but it's just about how do you connect them? How do you help connect the dots to women that might be doing different things in different regions, different parts of the world, but you're driven by the same passion? So there's been some intentionality to that. There's an element also, like you said, I don't know what to wear, right? So it's been in how every Friday I share inspiration for some of the outfits that you can come wearing, but beyond just, okay, this is the shade of pink or shades of pink you can play around with. Who is running a business out there? Is it female led? Okay, so do you have pink stock right now? Okay, can we talk about your business? Can we promote it? Can we get traffic, you know, to your space and what you're doing? Can we highlight the great work that you're doing? So for me, it's all about networking. It's been very big, a theme in my life this particular time. And how do we network in a way that goes beyond just the event, but you know the effects of it stay with you long after?
Yeah.
If people know that this woman has a business and this is what she does, long after the event, people will still be able to visit her shop.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to part of the reason why we're gathering, again, there's Pastor Pushy coming back.
Yeah.
She's bringing the word. You know what I mean? We cannot eliminate the word from the Truth High Tea gathering. But more than anything for me is I want women to find their identity. I think it all rises and falls with identity.
Yeah.
Once you know who you are, especially through the lens of God,
Yeah.
I mean, you become an unstoppable person. Once your identity is rooted in who you're created to be,
Yeah.
it's easier to, again, back to our conversation earlier, to draw those gifts out of you, those abilities out of you,
Yeah.
those things you've shelved, those things you're afraid to do, those, you know, will help draw those things out of you. And that's the vision that I really have for this year, that come and, you know, let's figure out how you can begin to be who God created you to be. And I know that that will last long after we've left Mulungushi
Yeah.
International Conference Center on the 8th
Yeah.
of July. It's something that will stay with you and you can run with it and pour it into another person as well. I always believe that we should be able to deposit things in each other as women that have the room to grow, but we're also able to pass on to another person. So the theme is what's in your cup.
What's in your
I
cup?
pour out what's in my
Yeah.
cup into you, not that you keep it. You know, you take some of it, it fuels something within you, and you're able to pour that out onto the
Yeah.
next person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also love that. What's in your cup?
Yeah.
Tea, with high tea.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
It's great. I'm excited about the event, and I have no doubt it will be a success because your intention is great. I think your intention is steeped in something
I
that's
can
really
take that.
good. Yeah.
I
So
can take
I'm
that.
excited. Okay. So Man, this has been a great conversation. And one of the things, so it's so funny, before I came for season 2, I was really thinking about what I'm going to change, what's going, you want to come and refresh. And one of the things, some of the feedback I got a lot from season 1 was length of the episode. It's don't keep them too long, this, that. But I told myself it would be an hour.
Okay.
Full stop.
I hope we haven't gone
No,
over
we
an
have.
hour. Wow.
But I'm coming to that. But funny enough, I just got really drawn to a book this week. It's by Rick Rubin. He's like a music producer, and he's written a book on creativity.
Okay.
And for me, creativity has become the new thing that I'm. I always thought of myself as academic, but now I'm leaning into my creativity. And it was around the fact that sometimes what needs to be done, or when you're creating, you should create something in its essence. So in its, like, yes, it's important to pay attention to certain things, but we should also always allow for flow, and also always allow for what needs the message to be the message, right? Because sometimes when we bring in these constructs of it has to be this, it has to be that. We're not playing by those rules yet, because this is not a show on like a TV platform where they only give you an hour.
Exactly.
So I retreated. I said, you know what? If I have an episode that's 40 minutes, it's going to be 40 minutes. If I have an episode that's an hour and a half, it's going to be an hour and a half, because I think I'm trying to trade. I'm trying to like what I'm creating for me. This is like more than just a podcast. It's my art, right? So I want the message to reach people as it is, and I think there's some very key things that we've talked about today that I wouldn't want to dilute, because I was condensing them in 60 minutes. Yeah. The day that I'm on a platform and they tell me 60 minutes, I'll behave.
You stick
but
to
right
it.
now, I don't have to. So we've.
That's rich, yeah.
Thank you. So we've always ended this podcast by having the interviewee ask a couple of questions, because I think it's just who I am. I always find it's one-sided conversations where I'm just asking, always awkward, because I guess I'm an interviewer. So we always try to like leave room behind for our guests to ask 1 to 3 questions. It doesn't have to be 3. It doesn't have to be 2. It could even just be 1. So do you have any questions for me?
Yes. Season 2.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you have learned from season 1? I know you got feedback.
Yes.
But you as a presenter, what did the whole of season 1 teach you about yourself?
This amongst a lot of things that I've done has been the thing that has taught me the most about myself.
Really, yeah?
And I think it's because I've been present for it. A lot of times you do projects, you go to workplaces, and you're going with emotions. This was very intentional from episode 1 to episode 10. So I was around, I was present for all of it. So I learned so much. What it taught me about myself is, 1, that I can do it. That was because before it was, can I? Maybe. I don't know. So now I know for sure that I can do this.
Absolutely.
I can have a podcast.
And you're doing it very well.
Thank you. From you, that's a huge
Very
compliment.
well.
Thank you. So it taught me I can do it. Secondly, it taught me I'm always teaching people to have a growth mindset. It taught me for sure that I have a good growth mindset. So now when you ask me, what's your truth? What do you know for sure? I know that I am a good student. Because I was able to take critical feedback.
Right.
And some of it very unfounded. Some of it was just harsh. I was like, what does that even mean? But I took it gracefully. And I was like, thank you. First of all, thank you for even just watching and for having those notes. Do I agree with what you said? Probably not, but I'm still grateful. So being able to take things and not... I was also very surprised at my ability for the criticism I could take. And even when it upset me, channel it out in the right way to the people that I trust, and still be grateful that it's there. Even the stuff that I had to change, very grateful. So knowing for sure that I have a growth mindset. I can do it. I have a growth mindset. Thirdly, the heeding of that nudge or God's call is not about you, because I think there are things that the people that get, as much as I learn a lot, like this episode, I've learned so much. I've realized that there's a lot more people that get more impacted. So realizing that it's not about me, because sometimes I think in the beginning my intention was really to share stuff and to share my story and share this, but that's some of the also the criticism I got. But I learned that, like, you know what, there are people that are genuinely getting helped, and they are getting helped in a really big way. Even people I didn't expect, and most of it has been the people I didn't expect.
You didn't expect.
Yes. You know, you have your target market in your head, but when the feedback comes, you're like, you are my target market. You watched that,
Yeah.
you know, and you learned something.
Yeah.
So that's the, I guess, fourth thing, is that it's not like when something comes through, I call it your belly, it's God speaking to you, firstly. And when God wants you to do something, it's rarely for you.
True.
It's usually about another person.
I can relate to that. But man, you've learned some incredible lessons.
They were incredible, but they were also,
and I'm glad I asked.
It was crazy because they were not the easiest,
right.
but but they've also just been very affirming. I've been affirmed by this podcast. Yeah.
And I'm sure they'll help even mold you more and more into the person that, you know, you're still evolving into, you know. Lastly, the talent whisperer, right?
Yes.
And HR background.
Yeah.
And then discussing talents and gifts and abilities. I mean, I'm obviously seeing that scarlet thread there.
Yes, there's definitely a thread.
Yeah. Has that always been an innate ability in you?
It has been an innate ability for as long as I could remember, but it's had different names. It's you're good at people, you're social, you're friendly. You know, the time I was on campus, my friends used to complain how I knew everyone, but you literally know everyone, and so it's shown up very differently. But all it's been is the ability to see people, to, like, when I meet someone, I can tell things that I didn't know that other people can't tell. Now I know that I can meet someone and I can tell that this person has something, or this person is good at this, or this person, like, I can just connect. In my head, it just happens.
You've fallen right into my trap.
Yeah.
Because I was going to conclude by saying, I've got a task for you. You're one of those that has king-making abilities. And what I mean by this is you're able to spot something in a person before they can see it themselves.
Yes.
So begin to nudge people who you've identified something in and try and draw that out of them, like help them. You talked about your friend.
Yeah.
So after this episode, go back and you give yourself the assignment of how you're going to get her to start.
Okay. Okay.
I know it's work.
I take it. Yeah.
I know it's work, but I'm just challenging you.
Yeah.
Just try.
Okay.
There's a reason why it's all like packaged in a way that it's been packaged.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's always, I always say this, that there's always something in a way that you kind of seamlessly and effortlessly do something. It means there's a purpose there. Yeah.
That just gave me like goosebumps.
Did it?
Yeah, that gave me chills.
My job here is done.
Yeah,
my work here is done.
Yeah. And I'll do that. And thank you. This has been really nice, and I've felt such and I don't know if this is just me now being an expert, but I felt such an ease today. I felt such an ease with you. Like I feel an ease, like a peace, and maybe maybe it's the conversation, maybe it's the timing, maybe it's you. I don't know. But I certainly, it's everything. But this has been nice. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate it. I don't think I have more words other than thank you, and I appreciate your time.
I had an amazing time, and I'm so glad I came through. I've learned so much from you as well. And for season 2, wishing you all the very best.
Thank you. You're the first guest, by the way.
Am I?
You're the first guest for season 2.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Okay, so yes, have an incredible season ahead.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in to our first episode of season 2. This was such a great conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit that like button, you subscribe to the channel, and you also rate and review us on any streaming platform that you use to listen to this podcast. Thank you, and see you next time on the Talent Whisperer podcast. Cheers. you.